So news just broke that a live-action Teen Titans movie is in the works at James Gunn's new DC Studios, with the writer of the new Supergirl movie attached to pen the script. Now that in of itself is fantastic news, and it's brilliant to see more expansion beyond the projects already announced by Gunn last year. So in this video I'll be breaking down my thoughts, the possible lineup we could get, casting said lineup, along with the villains we could get, and then what comic stories could be adapted. So let's dive in. So first of all, I want to say that seeing the Titans in live action feels like a fever dream to me, namely because I've been a casual follower of the team for many years, as the lineup changed over the course of the comics and the multiple TV shows, live action or otherwise. And if he ends up appearing in Brave and the Bold, then seeing Dick Grayson in all his glory in live action will be fantastic to see. In fact, I do think Brave and the Bold could even tease this movie as well. So let's take a look at what lineup of the Titans we could very much see in the DCU. Now, depending on what continuity you're reading from or which show you're watching, whether it be the original animated show, Young Justice, or Titans on Netflix, the Teen Titans lineup has always changed over the years. Now, if you're a regular follower of the TikTok page, you'll notice I've been doing fancast ideas for several corners of the DCU, including various iterations of the Justice League and other associated characters. Anyway, I think the ideal Titans lineup should include Nightwing, Starfire, Beast Boy, Cyborg, Raven, Miss Martian, Blue Beetle, and Arsenal. Now, this lineup I think would work really well for a few reasons. Firstly, it has many of the mainstay team members including Nightwing and Starfire, but also includes other members seen in other mediums. Miss Martian, for example, was a member of the team in Young Justice. Then we have Blue Beetle, namely because James Gunn has confirmed that not only will the character continue in the DCU, but also that Solo Maridueña, who plays Miguel in Cobra Kai and is fantastic in that role, will continue to play the character, making him one of 3 DCEU actors returning in the new universe, alongside Viola Davis's Amanda Waller and John Cena's Peacemaker. And finally we have Arsenal, who has been a member in the comics and I believe was rumoured to appear in the Titans TV show before it got cancelled, though that may have been a false lead anyway. But I think Roy could fit in very well because he acts as an expansion point for the DCU, leading us into Green Arrow's corner just as much as seeing characters like Nightwing leading us into the Bat family or Starfire as a backdoor into the cosmic side of things. So with the lineup solidified, I want to take a look at who could potentially play these characters in live action in the movie. So with Dick Grayson, there are a lot of choices we have for the character. In my Batman movie pitch for Brave and the Bold, I cast Mina Massar from Aladdin, but if we're purely talking the Teen Titans, I decided to cast Wolfgang Novogratz, namely because he is one of the popular choices and is in the right age range to play the character. Also, when the DCU Nightwing does get cast, age will need to be taken into account whether this will be an origin film for the team or will have them already established. For Starfire, I think we need to take into account that all these characters could likely be actors of different ages. Nightwing I imagine will be mid to late 20s, so for Starfire I will cast accordingly and go with an actress around that same age, especially if we want to have the Nightwing and Starfire romance from the comics, which is why I went with Ella-Rae Smith, who happens to be the exact same age as Wolfgang, so this will work regarding ages of the actors. So for Beast Boy we have quite a few options to have a look at. On one hand, I could see Ryan Potter being carried over from Titans, but one casting that's become popular online as of late is Inaki Godoy, who played Luffy in the live-action One Piece series on Netflix, and based on what I've heard and seen from that show in particular, I feel like he could definitely fit that role if given the chance. So next up we have Cyborg, which should be interesting as I'm sure there are a number of DC fans out there, some of whom might be watching this video, who would rather see him on the Justice League roster, which was the case for not only the New 52 and some of the animated movies, but also the Snyderverse as well. However, for the DCU, I think it's better to have Cyborg on the Teen Titans, seeing as that is where he's most popularly recognised from, as both animated shows had him on the roster. Anyway, in keeping with the ages, I imagine Victor to hopefully be around the mid to late 20s mark, so within that same age range as I imagine the Titans will have aged a little depending on whether they're already established in the new universe. Regardless, for Cyborg, I actually cast Williams-Stirling, who you might know as Jackson Marchetti from Sex Education, and to me at least he could definitely nail the role. Now, Sex Education for a few people may seem like a red flag, but anything after Season 3 in my opinion was a bit of a letdown. If anything, I think the show peaked at Season 3. So moving on to Raven, there is also quite a lot of casting opportunities for the character. Some have suggested Jenna Ortega, namely because of the Wednesday series on Netflix, but I can't really see it. Some have put forward Daphne Keane, who played X-23 in Logan, which by all means looks good on a resume, but my more out there casting is Bella Ramsey, who is best known these days for their role as Ellie in the Last of Us TV series, and I genuinely think this is a role she could nail if given the chance. So Miss Martian may be known more for Young Justice, but she has been depicted as a member of the team in the comics, so that's why she's on my list. So in my Justice League video, I cast YchLjOhJEsBTvsKg from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as Martian Manhunter, as I imagine James Gunn will likely carry over more actors from his other movies when he gets the chance. So I'll follow accordingly from that casting and cast an actress of colour for the role, and I think that role could go to Halle Bailey, who played the Little Mermaid in the live-action film of the same name. Now, Halle is slightly younger than the other cast members I've mentioned so far, as she is currently 23, but I don't think that could stop her from playing the character, as I've always imagined Miss Martian being somewhat younger than other members of the team, as is the case with Raven and the next casting we're going to talk about. Now, with Blue Beetle, I'm going to move pretty quickly past this because James Gunn confirmed that Solo Maldueno, who played Jaime Reyes in the Blue Beetle film, will carry over to the DCU alongside Viola Davis and John Cena as Peacemaker and Amanda Waller respectively. So, let's move on. And lastly, we come to Roy Harper, aka Red Arrow or Arsenal, whatever you want to call him. Now, as mentioned, Roy acts as a backdoor to Green Arrow's corner of the DCU, so my idea is that Roy was maybe in his late teens when he became Green Arrow's ward, and later on left his side to go off on his own, in a similar manner to Dick Grayson. And depending on where the DCU goes, Roy could eventually leave the Titans along with Starfire to join Jason Todd and form the Outlaws, depending on what James Gunn plans to do with other members of the Bat family. But regarding who could play Roy Harper, I think it's important to cast someone the same age as Dick Grayson in this movie, so around the mid to late 20s mark. Which is why I've gone with Dacre Montgomery, who is in the late 20s bracket, but also the same age as Keita Williams-Stirling. Now, a lot of folks nowadays know Montgomery for his role as Billy in Stranger Things, and rightly so. He's a great actor for parts of the show that he appears in. So the Titans, much like the Justice League, have their own fair share of rogues that they've faced over the years, but if we're talking about villains specifically for the Titans, then there's only one rogue for me that instantly comes to mind: Deathstroke. Now, thanks to the massive success of the Arkham games, Slade Wilson is generally regarded as more of a Batman-centric villain, when that isn't really the case, because in the comics and the numerous continuities surrounding it, Slade has taken on not only Batman, but has also faced the likes of Green Arrow and the Titans themselves, and one of his biggest feats was being able to take on most of the Justice League by himself, which on its own is very impressive. Now, depending on casting, there are avenues we can pursue. Now, more recently, there was a news report where James Gunn supposedly told Joe Manganiello, who played Deathstroke in Snyder's Justice League, to let it go, which seems to imply that Joe will not be playing Deathstroke in the DCU, which kinda sucks. And Joe was meant to get his own solo film as Deathstroke, which also sucks. Just shows you the mismanagement at Warner Bros., doesn't it? Moving swiftly on, one casting choice I think would really work for Deathstroke is Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played John Winchester in Supernatural, Negan in The Walking Dead, and will soon be seen in another comic book property, The Boys. Anyway, I think that Jeffrey Dean Morgan would be a really good fit for Deathstroke. We have seen him in some action-heavy roles with The Walking Dead especially, but never have we seen him in a role like this, so when the time comes, I think JDM would be a great choice for Slade Wilson. So, for the Teen Titans, much like the Justice League, yet again, have a wide variety of storylines that can be adapted for the screen. But I think the most popular story that could be adapted for this movie in particular should be The Judas Contract, written by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, who is sadly no longer with us. Wolfman is perhaps best known for his contribution to the Crisis on Infinite Earths comic book story, which saw not only the death of Kara Zor-El's Supergirl, but also the death of Barry Allen's Flash, who would not subsequently return for about 20 years afterwards. Anyway, the Judas Contract storyline sees Deathstroke hired to kill the Teen Titans, and I believe this is where the character became more commonly associated with the Titans especially, until 2013 of course. Anyway, if this story were adapted for the movie, I would expect a lot of changes, namely modernising the story as the original Judas Contract comic was written in the 80s, and the movie is more than likely going to be set in modern day. Also, things will have to be altered for the lineup depending on what characters are going to be included. And I expect there would also be a rivalry between Dick and Slade that could eventually set up a Nightwing solo film, which would be brilliant. Hell, maybe a Nightwing film could precede this to set up the storyline for the Titans movie, but only time will tell. But in conclusion, I think the Teen Titans finally getting their own movie is fantastic, and I'm happy to see that these characters not only are going to be getting the recognition they deserve, but also to see what Ana Nogueira does with these beloved characters. I hope I didn't just butcher that name. But that's going to conclude this video on my thoughts on the new Teen Titans movie that's going to come out hopefully soon. If you want to see more videos like this, then be sure to like and subscribe, check out the channel so you don't miss any more videos, and support us in any way that you can.